What's going on, everyone? My name is Jeff. We are back with another episode Behind the Glass, and today I'm going to be giving an opinion on the internet. Now, that's a pretty bold statement from me, so what exactly is this opinion? Well, it's my opinion that you can divide certain tiers of fish into several different types of fish keeping difficulties, so to speak. Anywhere from beginner all the way over to master. Now, in order to actually fully break down why I think this list will help you if you're interested in like stepping up your game, or if you want to kind of know like where you are in the fishosphere, the reason I'm making this is because I think that it would actually be beneficial to you if you knew what you could do next. If, like, say for example, if you have a few tetras, but you want to go all the way straight to keeping an arowana, might be a bit of a jump for you. You may want to stick to tiger barbs instead. So let's jump straight into the beginner tier. Now the beginner tier is full of really easy basic fish, like tetras or guppies or mollies. All three of these can be considered very, very beginner friendly fish, and there's a couple of different reasons for that. One, they're super cheap. Two, they're very colorful. Three, they are very hardy. Four, I can't hold my pinky. Four, they don't produce a lot of ammonia or waste, making cleanup on them a lot easier. And five, they don't eat as much, which means that you can be a little bit more forgiving if you happen to forget to feed them. And then another beginner-friendly invertebrate that you can start if you want to keep invertebrates are not snails. Snails are like an easy, but for a beginner, you want to start off with shrimp. Now, why do I say shrimp over snails when it comes to actually getting your first invertebrate? Well, the reason for this is a couple of different things, but one is that shrimp are a lot more self-sustaining. Because with snails, you have to give them certain amounts of cuttlebone and calcium, and you have to feed them like zucchini or broccoli. You know, you have to give snails an actual really highly varied diet. Whereas with shrimp are more than fine with just sustaining themselves off of live plant decay or the leftover food that falls down on the bottom of the tank, or with just simple little crab pellets even. You can put in crab pellets and the shrimp will eat the crab pellets. Shrimp are far easier to take care of than snails, in my personal opinion. Again, since this is an opinion piece, don't come on me. But just in my experience, shrimp have been easier to keep than snails. So next we move on to tier 2, which is the easy tier list. Now these can include several different kinds of fish, which can include things like betas, gouramis, tiger barbs, snails, danios, all these kind of easy fish that are also considered like newbie friendly fish, but they require like stocks of 6, or they're schooling fish, or they require a larger tank, say 20 gallons or so, or they have a little bit more specialty care requirements, but ultimately they're still very similar to tetras and mollies and guppies. They're very similar, they're just like different dimensions. They require schooling, they require bigger tanks, and that's really all I have to say on it. That includes snails, of course. I mentioned snails earlier. Snails are a very easy thing to take care of. They're a step above a complete beginner status, but they're still super, super easy to take care of. And for easy tanks, honestly, it's really not that hard. Just most tropical tanks will do. So next we move on to the medium tier list, and this is the third of 6 total tiers that I have on here. So with the medium tier list, this is where things start to get a little interesting, where you can kind of spice up your fish keeping hobby. Because this is the tier where you should start considering keeping South African cichlids, as well as maybe your first saltwater tank, in particular a fowler, however you pronounce it, a fish only with live rock tank. Now, with a fish-only live rock tank, fowler, saltwater tank, they're super easy to take care of. It's what my 75-gallon is a fowler tank, and it's considered a medium one because as we go along in the difficulty curve, it's going to get exponentially more harder and more complicated with more specialty setups to keep some of these creatures. but in particular with South African cichlids. There's a very fine difference between South African and South American. South African cichlids are highly schooling cichlids, while South American cichlids are usually highly antisocial or need to be kept on their own or in very specific groups. They are not well bonded together. I can't really list anything here because I personally don't have a South African cichlid tank, but I can speak from experience of others and what I've seen that South African cichlids are the easier of the two cichlid types to keep. Moving on to the Fowler saltwater tank, you can keep very easy fish to keep in there like clownfish, firefish, gobies, royal grammas, blue damsels or any of the damsel family, a dwarf angel beauty. There's a whole lot of beginner saltwater fish that you can get into. I mean, it would be like nearly impossible for me to accurately list all the beginner fresh saltwater tank fish that you can get, but in general, just look up like a list of like top 10 or top 20 easiest saltwater fish for beginners to keep, and you should be good to go. And then finally, for our final entry for the medium difficulty fish is goldfish. Now, I bet you thought that I forgot them, but I didn't, because these guys are very dirty, they get big, they require big tanks, and quite frankly, you need to clean after them very frequently. They're also very hungry, and they're just a generally harder and more difficult fish to keep, despite the myth that they are one of the easiest things to keep. They're actually quite difficult, which is why I would recommend them on a similar level to South African cichlids and Fowler saltwater tanks. So if that's medium difficulty already, what in the world is hard, elite, and master? What could possibly be in these categories that would outdo these things? Well, this is where things get very specific, very creative, and quite frankly, very hard. Now, with hard difficulty fish, this is going to include, as I stated in the medium list, it's going to include South American cichlids, which include tiger oscars, angelfish, and the like. But it can also include wild Native American fish, like long-eared bluegills, or sunfish, or perch, or largemouth bass. There's a whole dedicated community to keeping native wild fish in tanks. I would highly recommend it if you check them out, because there are some very beautiful, beautiful patterns on some of the fish that we have up here in the northern United States. And if you were ever interested in keeping one like I am, it's personally a dream tank of mine to have a North American native fish tank, then by all means do some research and actually go on some fish keeping groups and look up some guidelines of keeping them too, because they can be very difficult, but I think that they are so rewarding and they're actually quite easy to take care of once you've got them broken in. For saltwater fish that are a bit harder to keep, this includes things that are more sensitive, such as blue tangs, purple anthias, pink anthias, any of the anthias family, a majority of the tang family actually, now that I think about it, and as well as a couple of other things like seahorses. But I don't really have too much more to say on that, because I don't really have any of these tanks except for, again, the saltwater tank. Of course, I have a blue tang in there, but that's the only hard difficulty fish I have. And speaking of which, that's the last that's my highest level difficulty fish that I have in all of my fish tanks is that blue tang. So from here, I'm just like for elite and master level fish, these are just opinions that I've formed based on research that I've done. I'm not spitting out just some random opinion that I haven't backed by at least a couple of hours of research or video reviewing or what have you. I am actually basing this on mostly factual opinion that I have gathered. So with that little disclaimer out of the way, in my opinion, for the elite category, at this point, you can consider to start keeping full saltwater reef systems. This includes carpet corals and hard corals, rocky corals, soft corals, anemones, the whole an entire balanced reef ecosystem is unbelievably hard to keep if you don't keep on top of the maintenance. It's also one of the reasons why I personally don't have one, One of them being because I have Patrick, and Patrick is a starfish and he loves eating coral. But another is just because I really don't feel like I would be up to the responsibility of having one, because I only have a stock 75 gallon. I do not have a sump with it. I would have to replace my canister, install a sump, and it would be a lot of effort for something that I could just buy a whole new tank separately for. And I already have a dream tank that's not a full saltwater, so I'm trying to be responsible with my desires and my income limit and what money I have. So ultimately, I would love to have a full reef system. Those look so beautiful with all the different colorations, but at the end of the day, I don't think that I would actually be able, it would be outside of my budget essentially to have a full reef system, because you genuinely have to invest thousands of dollars into a full reef system for it to actually be healthy, and it can be at risk of crashing if anything goes slightly wrong. It's just a little bit too much risk for me. But I have mad respect to people who can actually keep that stuff in balance all the time. The next fish on my master tier list are arowanas. Arowanas are super popular fish for the end goal fish keepers. These fish are usually like the prize trophy of fish keepers. These are like the end all be all, I have won at fish keeping trophy fish. But I beg to differ. I think there's actually a tier above them in the Masters tier where you can have some ridiculously hard to keep fish. But don't get me wrong, arowanas are still highly beautiful fish. You can't go wrong with them, but you do need at least an 8-foot tank or so to keep them, and that's minimum. You would maybe 10 feet would be better for them, but 8 feet minimum would be best for keeping an arowana if you wanted to have an arowana. Again, I don't have one, I don't plan on having one, but that's just from what I've seen from other people's opinion. And then lastly, in the elite category, I'm gonna kind of lump all these fish together, and that's any predator tank. Predator tanks usually comprise of like highly voracious fish such as piranhas, or again, arowanas, or northern pike, or any fish that genuinely has to rely on predation of other fish in order to acclimate all of its nutrients to live. Now these tanks are again very elite, very hard, very specialized. You need to have very specific setups and food diets for them, so it's something that I'm not going to go into. I'm probably never going to have a predator tank, but they do seem very elite and hard to keep track of. So if any of you have predator tanks out there, high props to you. Finally, we enter the final true end game category for fish keeping, and these are genuinely the hardest of the hard. You would probably have to actually pay people to help you keep up with these particular tanks. And in one particular situation, this ain't even in a tank. I'm talking about full outdoor ponds, like an actual outdoor ecosystem that you dug and you built, and you keep an outside exterior pond exposed to the elements and predators. Ponds are unbelievably expensive and unbelievably hard to truly keep clean and maintain. It's one of the reasons why I recommended hiring somebody to actually help you keep it clean, because they can be very tough, especially in fall, because you need to make sure that if any leaves do fall in there, that they don't molt and then make the water cloudy, and then you don't have any real good vision of your fish outside of they're next to the surface. Tannins are really good and healthy for fish, but they're not very pretty to look at, so just keep that in mind. But ponds can be so beautiful. They can increase your housing value. They can add they can be an actual center display in your yard. You can make a bridge over them. Ponds are so cool. I mean, I wish I could have one. Maybe in the far future I'll have one, I don't know, but it would be like a life goal or a bucket list thing to have my own pond with like trophy worthy koi in it, and it would just be great. I mean, what else can I say about ponds? They're beautiful, and they're definitely a master tier system that you need to be on top of all the time. A couple of other master level fish that you can keep, which include saltwater variants, include the lionfish as well as moray eels or any other type of variation of eel. Again, these two need very specific requirements to keep them. They have very specific diets. You can't reliably or easily keep these fish with any other saltwater fish, and they're just extremely difficult. Please don't get these fish if you have not done thorough research on how you can keep these guys. And as always, of course, I mean, if you're planning on actually getting a pond or a lionfish or an eel or what have you, please at least make sure that you're doing your research so you don't waste genuinely tens of thousands of dollars just for it to go all down the drain because a mistake was happened. But if you're at the master level and you can keep these fish, I'm sure you're not going to make that mistake. You've probably gone through all the previous levels and you're more than set. Again, at the end of the day, this is just all my opinion. As stated, I've only reached up to a hard level of fish keeping with my blue tang. Everything above that I have no experience with, but I have done research on them. And as for this whole entire video, I'm just compiling this based on my own knowledge, my own experience, and my own research, so take it with a grain of salt. If I forgot any of your fish in any of these categories, please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your opinion on what fish you think belongs where, or if you think I got something wrong, also let me know. Give the video a like or a dislike, depending on how you felt about it, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content from me in the future. I really look forward to seeing you guys back here soon. You have a great one, alright?